Welcome back to my Road to Marvel's Black Widow series. This week we're talking about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. So I remember when this movie first came out, I was beyond hyped for it because the first one is one of my personal favourite Marvel movies. So going into the second one, I was really hyped, really excited to see what was going to happen. I thought the trailers was great, everything just really appealed to me. Went to an opening weekend with my friends and I left just disappointed. Everyone else was praising and saying, "Oh my god, I think it's better than the first one," going on all this great stuff. I was thinking, there's something here I don't like, and I wasn't able to kind of say what I didn't like, so I really didn't know what didn't kind of stick with me. But now, after seeing it probably 6 or 7 times, I understand completely why I don't really like this movie, and I'll get into it now. But anyways, to start off talking about the cast, and there's only two main cast members who get added to this. I actually feel like I actually want to talk about. First up is Kurt Russell as Ego the Living Planet. I think he's good, but he's a very forgettable villain in this movie, because the main fact that he's a very forgettable villain is the fact that he's not really the villain until the third act. You don't really get much build up of him being such an intimidating villain until the third act, but you do throughout the second act in particular. You get some good moments between him and Chris Pratt, Star-Lord. You got some good father-son relationship moments. Some of those are good, but beyond that, I think he's a very forgettable villain. A lot of people praise him, saying he's actually one of the best MCU villains. I personally really have to disagree with that, because I don't think he's kind of a very forgettable villain, besides the fact that he's Kurt Russell. We also have I think her name is Palm the no, I actually don't even know her name, but she plays Mantis. I think I actually almost got the opportunity to meet her last August. She was here for Dublin Comic Con. I actually went up to her booth twice. Both times I went up to her, she actually wasn't there, so I never actually got the opportunity to meet her. But her character in general, I think she's fine for what she is. She's not like a B-list. She's not even a C-list. Or even in the Avengers movie, she's completely kind of put to the side, except for in Infinity War. She has a good moment in there, but even this movie, which is her introduction, she really does feel like a sideline character. She feels very much like, oh yeah, it's a second movie, we should really add someone new to this group. Oh yeah, we'll just put Mantis in there. And I just feel like they didn't really do anything to her character to make her stand out as much. She's got a little bit of a good relationship with Drax, but I'm going to get into that a little bit more, why I actually don't really like her relationship with Drax. So this movie kicks off and we get the opening scene with Mr. Blue Sky as they're dancing. Well, Baby Groot is dancing around with a big massive battle happening behind it. I think that scene is fun in its own right, but I also think it's very much kind of a gimmick kind of thing. Like, oh yeah, at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy, you really enjoyed Baby Groot dancing. Well, here's an even bigger Baby Groot dancing scene with an even, in my opinion, better song to it, and then a bigger action sequence happening behind it. So I just feel like it's such a carbon copy of the first movie. It's like people go, "Oh yeah, we really like the first one. Why don't we just do the exact same thing in the second one?" Which I just kind of think that is a bit odd. The way you end your first movie, you kind of repeat it exactly beat for beat with the second movie. I still think it's fun, but I also just think it's an odd way to start off this music or movie. But the music in this movie, I personally think, is a lot better than Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. I actually find myself listening to Volume 2 a lot more than I do listen to Volume 1. Now, I have a playlist of both and put together, but I always tend to start the playlist off with a song from Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I just think it's just music is a lot more better. I think the other one, it's a lot more like jumpy, a lot more happier, but I think this in Volume 2, the music is just a lot better to listen to. I think the other one is more if you're doing something, but this one, if you're just Volume 2, if you're just sitting down listening to something, or even just in work, I put the Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack on a lot. Bring It On Home, I think, is the best out of all the music in both movies, and that's from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. And I just think the Volume 2 playlist is just much better than it is in Volume 1, and that's something you do have to talk about in this movie review, because it is a very vital point to these movies, and I'm very excited to see what he does for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and I hope that soundtrack is even better than Volume 2. I also just think it's a lot of fun to be able to hang out with these characters again. I really enjoy all of them for the most part. I think they all got great chemistry back and forth. They quip back and forth a lot with each other, and I just really I like that we actually got to see more of these characters. Remember when I seen Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 for the first time in cinema, as soon as it ended I was like, oh shit, we're going to have to wait like 3 years for the sequel. And as soon as this came around, it was just great to be able to hang out with these characters once more. Also, this movie is very funny. It's got some great moments, especially with Baby Groot. Star-Lord as well has got some really funny moments as well. Drax is a very much more comedic character in this movie than he was in the first, and I think he's very funny in this movie, but that is the downside to the character of Drax for me personally. Moving on from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, he had funny moments, but the way his humour was, It was very straight man humor. It wasn't intended to be a joke. Well, it was intended for us to laugh at it, but he never meant it as a joke. But I just feel what they did with Drax in this movie, and then as well in Infinity War, I just kind of felt like they made him the punchline of every joke. They kind of took away his kind of. He was very a big serious character. He was always very muscular. He kind of felt very intimidating in the first movie, but this one he just looks like a big teddy bear. I just don't find him intimidating in this movie, especially as well in Infinity War. I just think he just plays all jokes. Everything he says is meant as a joke, and they really took the character of Drax down a lot as well. As I said, one of the reasons I don't like Mantis and Drax together in this movie is the fact that all the stuff he does with her is he's just putting her down constantly, and I don't like that, seeing a man literally telling a woman she is ugly, and she gets upset in the movie. I just think all that what they do with Drax and Mantis really just does not work for me within this movie. One of the other issues I have with this movie is the fact that it's a character-driven story. Majority of the comic book movies are kind of based around the villain does something and the hero has to step up and defeat the villain. But this movie is the hero does something and then the villains, well, sort of the Sovereigns, become the villains because they're up against their heroes. But Rocket steals from them and they try to get their stuff back. And we kind of make them out as the villains because Rocket's our hero, and it shows how flawed Rocket is. But I just don't like the way the whole movie starts off because Rocket does something stupid, and I just really don't like the fact that he just doesn't understand that that's not his. He just has to have something that is not his, and he just destroys the ship. He destroys so much because this character has such a character defect, causing us to kind of see a whole population of people as villains because our hero has done something wrong. I just don't really like that aspect to this storyline whatsoever. Also, the talk about the villains of this movie, the movie doesn't have a villain. It doesn't have a main villain. It's got 3 acts and every act has its own villain, and that is one of the reasons why this kind of falls flat for me as well. Act 1 we have the Sovereign as the villain, which, as I said, I don't really see them as a villain, so the fact that they're our main villain of the first act kind of makes the first act kind of unmemorable. Also, second act, we've got Taserface as our villain, and Taserface as our villain the whole second act. I've got a major problem with that, which is the tone. The tone is all over the place in the second act. 1 minute, we're having fun. Peter Quill and his dad are tossing a ball to each other, and we completely, next scene we jump over to see a lot of this, what are they called, the Ravagers? A lot of them, some of them being thrown out of the ship, as you see people on the ship crying that their friends have been thrown out of the ship, and it jumps back and forth. We see that, then we jump back over to see Groot having fun, little baby Groot having fun, and then we also get to see him get drenched by alcohol as adults laugh around. So just imagine that. A baby is getting drenched by alcohol as adults laugh around, and then we jump back over, Peter Quill's playing with his dad. I just think the tone shift is just massively different between these two scenes, and it's just does not blend well together whatsoever for me. Also, in our third act, we have Ego the Living Planet as our main villain, which, as I said earlier on, I think he falls flat as a villain because he just is the villain out of nowhere. I think if he was the villain for all 3 of the acts, he would have been a lot more memorable, a lot more interesting. But the fact that he's only our villain in our third act, I don't have much emotion there. As well, the final action sequence, I just think it's a big, ugly CGI mess. There's just so much happening that you can't even see a lot of that's happening just because it's just way too much CGI. Where the first movie ends, I think the actual final fight scene is really memorable. I think it's a bit dark in some scenes, but I just think this one is a big, massive CGI mess. Also, to talk more about Ego, he's also killed thousands and thousands of his own children, as well as killing Peter Quill's mother, forcing Peter Quill, our Star-Lord himself, to kill his own father, which I just thought was such a weird twist to do. Well, not a twist, I kind of predicted that's how it was going to happen. But I just kind of figured, just have him being searching for his father for pretty much his entire life, to then have to turn around and kill his father, and then realizing that that may have been his father, but Yondu was his actual dad, and then have to watch Yondu die. I just thought that was so much at the character of Peter Quill. That's not really a negative. Well, it's more of a negative. I didn't like to see that happen, but it's not really a negative on the movie. I just think the sacrifice of Yondu works so well for me personally. As well, going off the first movie, you wouldn't think, okay, Yondu's going to die in the second one, and you're going to really feel that gut punch. You don't really see that coming off of the first movie, but what they do in the second movie, building Yondu up as a hero, then to watch him die, I just think that works really well. But I think having Peter Quill killing his own father, I just thought that was a bit too much for what this movie is. So Guardians of the Galaxy 2, though, for me personally, I I don't like it. This movie could work for you, and I know it works for a lot of people because a lot of people kind of get annoyed at me when I let them know I don't actually like this movie. I feel like every time I watch it, I actually like this movie less. I actually really didn't want to watch it this week. I was so contemplating actually not watching it because I only watched it back in January or something like that to see if I liked it anymore at that time. And then I watched it again this week. Really didn't like it. It just movie does not work for me. Besides all the funny moments with our characters and just being able to hang out with our characters again. Also, getting the blessing of what is Guardians of the Galaxy Awesome Mix Volume 2. This movie just does nothing for me. I think I have this, I think out of all 17 movies or wherever I'm at now, this is number 14, which is kind of a massive drop where actually I've got Guardians of the Galaxy at number 4 and then Volume 2 is way down the bottom. It's actually just below Iron Man 2 and then below it it's just got Thor 2 and I think Thor. I think that's where my ranking lands at the moment. But Guardians of the Galaxy, or Volume 2, I'm just massively disappointed with this movie. But let me know your thoughts on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 in the comment section. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let me know all that down in the comment section down below. If you want to see more from me as well in the future, especially in this Marvel review series, next week will be Spider-Man Homecoming, which I'm really looking forward to rewatching that because I finished school exactly when this movie came out, so I was able to relate to Peter Parker a lot when I seen this one for the first time. So if you want to hear my thoughts on that movie properly next week, make sure you click the subscribe button. And as always, thanks for watching.